In front of cameras, Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance made a choice to berate Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office yesterday. What was meant to be a negotiation over Ukraine's rare earth minerals quickly turned into a diplomatic disaster.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
Count one.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
This moment is yet another reminder Trump is scolding the leader of a country that was invaded. Trump has never publicly scolded Vladimir Putin, the invader. He actually said in the meeting that, he can't criticize Vladimir Putin and then try to cut a deal. But he had no problem criticizing President Zelensky. This is just a week after Trump called Zelensky a dictator. Again, a false claim that mirrors Russian propaganda. Joining us now to discuss it all is former Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock of Virginia and Evelyn Farkas, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia. She's now the Executive Director of the McCain Institute.
Evelyn, I just can't even begin to level up the embarrassment, the sheer hubris and stupidity of what we witnessed. I'd like to finish a thought that President Zelensky tried to convey to little wonderkind J.D. Vance when they were talking about, when he was trying to help them understand, if we get this wrong, you will feel the influence of bad decisions. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about that.
During the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
It speaks to the ignorance of the man in the red tie that he didn't understand exactly how that conversation started. You're isolated, America. You're surrounded by two oceans, right? But even that, if you get this wrong, if you allow Russia to have control the way you're setting this up, you will feel the other side of that. Speak to that, if you could, just to help people in the White House understand how to do foreign policy.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Munich. The speech that really mattered was President Zelensky's speech, because he said the same thing. He said, Europe, if we get rolled over, are you ready? Same question applies to the United States, because if Europe's not ready, Vladimir Putin and President Xi, we have to understand, they are not separate. They're working together. They will come for us, because sphere of influence doesn't mean that you can't fend off the big power. The big power is always going to try to take you over if there's no international system to protect you, no rules, and no allies working with you, meaning the Europeans will have been, decimated by Putin. Now, we don't want to overemphasize how strong Putin is today, because he's very weak today, which is why we could have a deal if President Trump played this frankly better than he played it yesterday.
I think the whole thing just seems so myopic, right? The idea that the most important thing is having expressed gratitude, which, just for the record, let's play some sound of President Zelensky expressing his gratitude to this country.
I thank every American family. I thank President Biden and both parties.
I'm very thankful to American people.
Thanks you, your team, Congress.
I'd like to thank America and our partners for the support. And I'm very grateful to all Americans. We deeply appreciate that Ukraine and America have stood side by side.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. Thank you for the invitation. So thank you very much.
So the guy seems pretty grateful. Maybe he wrote a thank you note afterwards.
He said thank you on the socials afterwards.
But the fact that Republicans came out and made it about that, made it about who was rude and who wasn't, not is America safer today than we were yesterday, kind of gives away the whole game.
Oh, of course it does. I mean, listen, what this showed was that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are on Putin's side, period. And it really was a disgraceful performance at a time when we need leadership. And it's really amazing that you saw all these European countries, 30 countries immediately, speak out and come to the aid of Ukraine. And you have, I'm president of the Former Members Association. Former members, bipartisan, are very much in support of Ukraine. We gave our annual award to the people of Ukraine to express that support. We are working, to have, exchange programs with the former members of the parliament of Ukraine. So this is something where and the members of Congress, many of the silent ones, they have supported this. You had 300 votes in the House last year, bipartisan support in the Senate. So it is disgraceful, the performance we saw yesterday, a low in Congress. But now I think Europe understands that they are going to have to, it's going to be their finest moment, I think. They're going to come together. Donald Trump wants to be isolationist. He's fighting with Canada. He's fighting with Mexico. He doesn't like that. He said, who are the dumb people who made that deal with Canada and Mexico? He signed it. He doesn't know what he's done. He's asking, and J.D. Vance is sitting there thinking, you haven't thanked us. He didn't support the deal for Ukraine. He didn't vote for that. And Marco Rubio, who was slinking into that couch, he couldn't have been more uncomfortable. He didn't vote for the last package either. So the people who were sitting there, President Zelensky was being very polite to and thanking them. But he stood up for his country. He stood up for democracy. And all those European countries who are now standing up for him are the same people who were standing up for us after 9/11. And Donald Trump doesn't know any of that history.
Yeah. None of it. Look, some of my Republican friends are like, Zelensky needs to apologize. Some of my non-Republican friends are like, oh, I can't believe he went into the Oval Office like that. And that's the face I had, Evelyn. I was just like, what do you mean he needs to apologize? The Oval Office is a place where you have tough conversations, right? That is not Zelensky's first time in the Oval Office where he has had a terse exchange with an American president. There were many of those with President Biden. I do think, though, that is the first time he's been in the Oval Office where that exchange has happened in front of the cameras, where he was berated and belittled and humiliated as though he was the person that invaded Russia.
Which, of course, Trump's been lying about. Right. So he went into that meeting with Trump lying about who invaded who and lying about how much money the U.S. had given and who gave more when, by a factor of, 3? He's been saying 300, billion, in which, nothing of the sort. And, Donald Trump was fact-checked by President Macron and others just this week. So Trump has been lying, as he so frequently does from the Oval Office, and many of us have had to fact-check him in the past. I had an experience to do that myself, and he does not like that.
Evelyn, the minerals deal, maybe I don't know. I was just a comms person, okay? But I thought that the minerals deal... person? I wasn't a minerals person. I don't fashion myself as an economist like the chairman here. I was just a comms person, and my comms person understanding of what is going on here is that the minerals deal was literally Ukraine and the United States basically signing an MOU so that American companies can mine these minerals in their country. I would know where the minerals are, I'm told.
Some of them
are in territory that's currently controlled by Russia. It does nothing for Ukraine. So it feels to me like a little bit of an extortion. But you tell me.
Well, so I think where it went off the rails was the Trump administration said, we're going to make this deal, and this deal should give you security because we will now have a stake in the future of Ukraine. The problem is, from Zelensky's perspective, it doesn't give him a security guarantee because tomorrow you sign the deal. Tomorrow, no troops are going in automatically. There's no agreement on the security part. So there's a lot of political risk for Zelensky. Remember, he's a democratically elected leader. There's a lot of risk for him in saying, OK, I'm going to sign this deal without even the administration the U.S. government giving him something of a security agreement or even a public promise that they're going to continue to negotiate it. But I think the Trump administration was also really stubborn about not wanting to go further than this minerals deal. And again, the public component of this is astonishing. I mean, it was 2-on-1. You know, those people in the side seats, they're not supposed to speak until spoken to. It's two principles, president and president. If my president, and I've been in a lot of these meetings, I've been up to the level of the vice president with Foreign Minister Lavrov. If Vice President Biden had wanted me to say something, he would say, Evelyn, blah, 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 ask me something. I would answer, and then I would go back to spectator mode. You don't bully and, team up. And it's the two principles. So there's a lot of protocol that went wrong there, too, as you know.
Evelyn, let's broaden this out a little bit more because, okay, we see in play the idiocracy, which is this administration when it comes to foreign policy, among other things. This now shifts, in my view, the focus to Europe. And I've been asking this question for the past year and getting some really crazy looks, but now I think people understand why the question is relevant. Who among our European allies is ready to step up and take control of this alliance, recognizing that as of yesterday, effectively, the U.S. has sided itself with Russia and the darker forces on this planet that don't stand for the light of liberty, but stand for the darkness of authoritarianism and control of people's lives. Who in Europe do you see, or which partner, pair of leaders in Europe are prepared to step forward into this space?
I'd say that there are three candidates. And I think the Europeans have to decide. I can't decide that for them. But obviously, President Macron, he's been very good about dealing diplomatically with President Trump. He also clearly is interested in taking the lead. And he doesn't have, his future in politics is uncertain, so he could potentially take the lead in some other way. Or maybe he will come to gain more power because of what's happening.